data center, proposed data center.
New at 6, the proposal to bring a new data center to Wake County is sparking big debate.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we will be discussing the Native American tribal lands that the Stokes County plans to build a data center on. I'm here joined with Kim DeVoe. Kim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yep, Kure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So first starting off, what exactly do you know about this data center and how long have you been hearing about it?
I was completely unaware. I live in Stokes County in Pinnacle. I see Jamoki, which most people know as Pilot Mountain. It means the Great Guide. I see it every day as well as Saura Mountain. This was brought to my attention through 7 Directions of Service on December 2nd. None of my community members knew anything about Project Delta. There was no signs, no letters, nothing to tell us about this proposed data center. So I went to a community meeting in Walnut Cove at the library on that date, the same day, enraged, confused. And so from there, there was a county commissioner meeting on December 22nd, I believe. There might have been one on the 16th, or that might have been another community meeting. But anyhow, so I continued to go to these meetings. We convened at a restaurant and discussed more about this data center. And then on the 22nd of December, I went to Danbury and went to the Board of Commissioners meeting. Signed up to speak. Unfortunately, my cousin and I, Cindy Olafson, we were the last 3 people to speak, and so we were not heard. But apparently this data center, talks of it, span back, and I could be corrected on this, but to August of 2025. And the community at large of Stokes County had no knowledge of this till around Thanksgiving in November, which is very unsettling. And so a lot of us reacted with emotions naturally at the news of it because we were trying to absorb this monster they're wanting to put on our sacred mountain. And so that was our reaction to it. Unfortunately, I was out of the country on January 12th of this year, 2026, when the commissioners had the formal meeting for all of Stokes County. My husband was there and he spoke for me, and he kept me apprised of everyone there. There were so many residents of Stokes County standing outside in the cold because they were not allowed in the room with the commissioners or in the building, that were chanting against this. And yet those commissioners still voted 3-2 to approve this data center.
And, so you say that they were more than likely talking, this was something planned even back of August of last year. Did they have any Q&A session to allow people to ask about this data center even before the January 12th meeting?
To my knowledge, absolutely not. That was kind of the consensus with all of us, is that, there was no warning, no time to think it through, none of that. And if folks will go back and look on YouTube, you can watch the Board of County Commissioners meetings on YouTube, And if you watch, you will see one of the commissioners make two comments. One, that's not Stokes County, in reference to Drew Nations, who is heading the Project Delta data center. That was absolutely Stokes County, sir, out there speaking to you. Everyone was upset and irate because we had no knowledge of this, no way to absorb this, to come up with counter, ideas for revenue. None of that. So no, none of us were in any way, as I understand, and being throughout community, had any knowledge of this prior to for discussions to even happen.
Right. Now, let's back up a moment here. Talk about how sacred this land is. You mentioned something about Jamoki, and I did some Googling and all that other stuff. Now, apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently this land is home to the spirit guide Jamoki, who resides in the mountain, and Jamoki means great guide or pilot. Talk about this land and how sacred it is. Talk about the history also.
Absolutely. This is the land of the Saura people. They have been here since well before time immemorial, and they are Siouan. Um, they are the original caretakers of Stokes County, into Surrey, into Rockingham County, and I believe parts of Virginia. As Indigenous people, even back then, we didn't stay in one area for too long because you don't overuse the land and you follow your prey.
That's right.
But if you look at Stokes County and Rockingham and Surrey, you see the absolute beauty that this landscape is. And this landscape and the beauty that we see today is a result of their hands tending these lands, caring for these lands, praying over these lands, and bleeding into these lands. Sauratown Mountains, specifically Upper Sauratown, is a well-known gravesite of the Saura Nation. The descendants of the Saura people are still very much alive today. You're speaking to one, as well as the Great Catawba Nation of South Carolina, the Occaneechi, Saponi, the some of the Lumbee, Tuscarora. That once the Sauras dissipated due to diseases from colonization or wars, they dissipated into other tribes, those that were still here. But like I said, there is a massive gravesite that is on Upper Sauratown that has been dug into by archaeologists. My time frame may be off, but it was in, I want to say 72, 75 to like 82, where 105 individual remains were removed from that area, as well as the Saura woman that has a statue I believe in Chapel Hill, or it might be Raleigh. But her remains as well are kept in UNC Chapel Hill. And so throughout this journey of this data center, I also met someone named Michael Hartley, and he was a part of the dig, I believe, in the 80s. And so he had made the comment to the Board of Commissioners that only a quarter of this sacred site has been discovered. So, with that, if you know your fractions, that leaves three-quarters that are unidentified. Now, I'm not suggesting we go and dig up those relatives. I think we should leave them at peace. But that brings the broader picture of this data center is going to creep over remains knowingly. That's the key, knowingly. And that can't happen. These people are still, like I said, their descendants are still very much alive today.
And that's the thing. Have the graves been has proof of the graves been introduced to the county as proof? And if so, what was the county's response to this?
Um, of course, there's proof that there were remains there,
Hmm.
and the county's response, what I understood, is they're not really discussing it. They're calling Upper Sauratown the floodplains. And so we're going to navigate away from the floodplains. Here's my question to you, and this is my question to them as well, is if you have your great grandmother buried in a cemetery and they decide they want to put a huge data center up against the gravesite of your great grandmother, where it was once peaceful and deer could roam and, all the other wildlife, bear, raccoons, possums, it was beautiful to see, right? When you would visit your grandmother.
Hmm.
Now you've got this and it's right there smack dab beside of your grandmother, and then you find out, well, wait a minute, is that okay? I don't think so.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, I would think, though, that this land would somehow be connected to, or at least protected by, or at least considered into belonging to the state park. Because you think of Pilot Mountain State Park, and this land is not protected by law on paper and black and white.
This land, okay, the graves are protected. Um however, it's tricky. Okay, I want to emphasize this: there's been no cultural easement that I am aware of for decades, right?
Hmm.
Meaning that as a Saura descendant, I can't go up there to that gravesite and pray. I can't go up there and pray for their protection. I can't sit with them. It's not open to me. It is private property and has been for some time. And if the Project Delta doesn't directly build on top of them, that's considered protection, which to me is terrible law, right?
Hmm.
They're not, as long as they don't build directly over them, then what's
Hmm.
the harm, I guess, the way they see it.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure how this build is going to coincide with the graves, but you can bet you will see me um, protesting.
Is there anything new? Is building the data center set in stone? Is there any more meetings on this? What's going on with the data center now?
Honestly, I'm not aware of anything new as far as Stokes County is concerned, but a lawsuit has been filed against the county for the pushing this through in the way that they did. Again, the lack of communication, the lack of you know, talks with community, so that, we can ask these questions, um, that was denied to the community of Stokes County. So there has been a lawsuit filed, yes.
Do you think there's a fighting chance that this lawsuit can be won by
I
the people of Stokes County and the tribe?
I sincerely hope so. Every bit of my prayer goes to that, because not only is this data center going to lay on indigenous sacred ground, which is upsetting enough. I can't think of a worse way to disrespect the original peoples of this land than to put an AI data center on top of their remains for a better virtual experience.
Hmm.
Not a life experience, but a better virtual one. But I also send up prayer for those that are, living directly in the path of this beast. And not to mention the children of the forest. And nobody wants to seem to give them a voice.
When you
You
say
know,
children of
this
the forest, who do you what do you mean?
I mean, the four-legged, the winged. I'm talking about our deer, our raccoons, our possums, our snakes, our fish in the Dan River. If this data center doesn't need water or it's not going to use so much water, then why does it need to be beside our sacred river? Why do any of them need to be near a water source if they're not going to use so much water? They claim they're going to use a closed loop system. Well, you know, again, it still needs water to cool it. And, the recycled water that comes out of that gets drained back into the rivers. Therefore, the children of the forest um, are drinking, eating things that grow from these poisons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just a vicious cycle that continues.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, if it's looped, that's still putting the water back into the yeah, that's still not going to be healthy to consume.
Absolutely not.
Now, you talk about spiritually, and I come from, my great great grandmother was a Native American as well. And we do have relatives. She was Okanichi herself. I am we are very spiritual. Me and my family, we're very spiritual. Native Americans are very spiritual. There's something unsettling, and you had basically said it just a couple minutes ago. There is something very unsettling about interrupting nature and building on top of or near grave sites. It's something very unsettling about that. What do you think is the spiritual consequence of ignoring and disrespecting the land? Because this is something that many Native American tribes to this day deal with. You hear about the pipeline in what, South Dakota, North Dakota, those years and stuff, how they were trying to fight the pipeline from being built through Native American burial grounds out there. These things are happening all across the country, and quite frankly, all across the world. There's a disrespect towards the original people of the land. And when you see things that are happening and unraveling around the world today, it's not good. It's just not good. It's almost like a karma occurring. What do you think is the spiritual consequences of ignoring and disrespecting ancient tribal lands that are very, very important?
Well, I think it's first to acknowledge, we need to first acknowledge that as Indigenous people, we're very connected to the land, very connected. So when the land is disrespected or harmed in any way, that is affecting our spirit as the original caretakers of the land. That responsibility falls on every Indigenous person. And the more the welcome, right? We welcome allies that help us to protect this because we're all living here on Mother Earth.
Correct.
If I may be very, very honest here, let's talk about environmental injustice. And that is when brown and black communities are dismissed because they are looked at as less than. This
Mm-hmm.
is not new to either community.
Mm-hmm.
This has been happening since 1492,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly even before then.
Oh yeah.
So the natives have been pushed to reservations and pushed to areas that were deemed less desirable. And it seems to aggravate, and, even with black communities, right? It seems to aggravate the status quo when we care for the land and we flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that opens the door of land back. Okay. And I just want to speak on this as my own opinion, as my own understanding. Land back simply means, you know, we should put the care, environmentally speaking. You spoke on pipelines. You speak, and there's one coming through Rockingham County. Um, you know, and the injustice that is befalling our brown and black communities. Um, land back simply means give the land and the care of the earth back to the original peoples to make decisions on whether this is good, the betterment for the human race, and if it coincides and is going to hurt the earth, period. Because the earth itself sustains us. We have every medicine that we have ever needed as human beings given to us by Creator on the mother. She has provided relief from poison oak to migraines to blood pressure to menopause. So many different cures are found. Oddly enough, you have Bear aspirin. Bear is also the creator of Weed Be Gone that kills the dandelion. Guess what? The dandelion could help,
Mm-hmm.
the heart. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a coincidence, in my opinion. This isn't the first time we're being disrespected. This is an ongoing saga, which opens the door on pipelines to the MMIW crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the pipeline is such a big highway for our murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, and two spirits.
Mm-hmm.
We find value in our two spirits. And, so this is an ongoing slaughter, I feel, that just continues to be repetitive over and over again. And people are not hearing about this on the news. They're not hearing about this, not to throw shade on any family or any one person. But if a white girl goes missing,
Mm-hmm.
the entire nation knows about it.
That's right.
Why is it when a native or a black person goes missing, the first sentiments of the public is, oh, well, they were drug addicts or they were this, they were that, not considering the oppression that our people are facing on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis, not considering, more importantly, that they're a valued person, period.
And I
They
could
are.
tell you, it's definitely a systemic thing because when I was working, and I'm not going to say the company name, but when I had actually brought this up during an editorial meeting, I said people on Facebook, part of the Saura Tribe, they're saying that this is built on their tribal lands, and I gave them enough information in the editorial meeting for them to be like, wow, this would be an interesting story for Adriana to cover. They completely ignored it. you know
Sure,
there's a
sure.
couple of black women. I don't know if you've probably heard of her name, Marissa Carmichael. She's missing out of Greensboro, and she has been missing out of Greensboro going on maybe 2-3 years now. Back in January, the anniversary of her disappearance came up, and I forwarded that and brought that up in the editorial meeting. Nobody didn't do anything about that. Then there was another girl who would have been missing for 10 years out of Greensboro. And these are both black women, mind you. I think
Mhm.
Marissa might be biracial, but there was another girl who was fully 100% black. She was missing for 10 years since 2016 out of Greensboro. I unfortunately got let go before I could even pitch that story to see if we could, contact the family or contact Greensboro police and be like, hey, this girl, she's been missing for 10 years now. And I think she was like 16, 17 years old,
Mhm.
mind you, So yeah, there's
Right.
it's a systemic thing where they don't want to touch on different things. And, unfortunately, I think it's because they don't want to piss off the higher ups or the local law enforcement agencies who kind of want to sweep it under the rug, et cetera. Yeah, I totally get that for sure. I've seen it with my own two eyes, and I've witnessed it myself.
Absolutely. And it's this is ongoing. The I wish that my white counterparts could have a real conversation, with their self and their spirit, to have these uncomfortable conversations, for healing to take place, for visibility to take place. We cannot ignore genocide and slavery and move on like those things are ended and they have, that was ages ago. No, we're still dealing with that today. It's a, it's in everyone's, it comes with entitlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, you know, people still see color, and it bothers me to my spirit. It really does. And unfortunately, we have to, as brown and black communities, advocate for ourselves. And that is something we've been doing for forever,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. And in this administration, we're definitely not being heard. Trump struck a lot of funding for MMIW. He struck the report. Um, and this is just ongoing. And now they're talking about dismantling the parks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the reason for that is because these parks hold valuable resources. I hate to discuss or talk about our grandfather rocks as a resource, um, or any part of Mother Earth as a resource, but that is unfortunately the terminology of today. So they are going and dismantling these protections so that they can, what was it he said, drill baby drill.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
at what cost? Because it's always been the black and brown communities that have paid the cost,
Right.
paved the way, um, you know, to the America that we have today. So there is a lot of healing that needs to take place, a lot of listening. And, unfortunately, I believe I remember who you're talking about. Wasn't she at a gas station? One of the ladies you mentioned?
Yes. Marissa Carmichael. She was at a gas station at a Sheets, I believe.
Yes, and just disappeared. You know what? It doesn't happen to anybody till it happens to you.
Absolutely.
And then you want everyone in the planet to hear your cries. You want everyone in the planet to, it doesn't matter if they're on this side of Turtle Island, which is the East Coast, or the West Coast, the North or the South. You want that bell rung so loudly because you're looking for your loved one.
Yeah,
And people don't just dissipate in thin air.
that's right.
Um, you know, it's, I get tired of hearing, well, we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources. So, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You have a community of people that's willing to volunteer their time and their efforts, um, just like what was happening in Alaska, with searching the landfill. And it was the law enforcement that withheld those people from going in there, stating safety issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, simple fix, gear up. I promise you, the mama ain't got a problem putting a mask on and putting something over her entire body to go dig through that landfill for her child.
Right.
Um, so sadly, it's happening everywhere. So this is, tying back to the Saura. People don't. I have found people that didn't even know, and I'm talking in Stokes County, that had never heard of the Saura people.
Yeah, I personally haven't either, and that's the purpose of this podcast that I'm doing, is that, I'm bringing to light a lot of the unspoken histories and people, not just in North Carolina, but across the country, because I do a lot of research, I do a lot of Googling about different things. I want to learn about different things. And, I've lived in the state of North Carolina for going on 4.5 years now. I'm originally from Virginia, but there is so much history here in North Carolina, specifically the Piedmont Triad, that nobody talks about. Like, there's so much history. I didn't know anything about the Greensboro Massacre. I didn't know anything about the Greensboro Uprising. I didn't know anything about this. Like, so there is so much that is not being told, not only on the mainstream, but anywhere else as well. And so that is the exact reason why I am doing this podcast, so that we can bring this to light. Because I feel like, especially with what's going on in our country and the world today, I feel like people are now hungry for this type of information, because we see that there are things all across this world right now that are just out of whack. I mean, the fact that, this administration is able to get away with just anything, is
Anything.
mind-boggling, you know?
Mm,
And that's
mhm.
another thing too, because again, it's going back to that spirituality. Do you feel that the earth is so out of whack because of the disregard and of the land and the environment? Because now, don't get me wrong, it's happened all the time, right? It's happened for centuries, for thousands of years. You've had Europeans that just come in and not care about the land or the people. But it's
Right.
something now. I mean, you're looking at the weather, there's earthquakes, the weather is crazy. I mean, do you think that the earth is really out of whack because of the continuous disregard of the land and the earth and the people and the original people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The number one thing that's coming to mind right now is, no matter what your faith is or your listener's faith is, whether you call your greater spirit, great spirit, creator, God, Lord, who are we? This is the question I pose. Who are we to think that we can perfect what is already perfect?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot add to something that's already perfect. We're poisoning it on an alarming rate. We're disregarding warnings. The Wampanoag right now are fighting for the herring, the fish. They're buying up because apparently they sell tickets, right? And that's maybe not the word, permits. There we go, permits, that fishers can fish 20 herring in a season. And the Wampanoag, I think is brilliant, went and bought these tickets to burn them because we are over harvesting. We live in a world that instant gratification is right now. We have Amazon delivered next day. There
Mm-hmm.
is no waiting. There is no being patient with anything. So everything is in high demand. And, we're pushing our farmers out. We're not listening to the people that are caring for our bodies, our physical body. And we're not listening to the indigenous people that are looking for, trying to care for the earth, which feeds our physical body and our spirit. Everybody loves to go in the summertime to the mountains to look at the waterfalls, go in these caves. Well, just so by doing nothing, you are complicit to the
Mm-hmm.
destruction. You are complicit in the destruction of these beautiful things that Creator has gifted us. And how dare we think that it's not enough, A, and B, that we could perfect it in any way, shape, or form. I think to reverse this would require some hard conversations, but ones that are worth it. And that is, just give the indigenous people the land back. Let us take care of and decide what needs to go where needs to be drilled. Because at this point, it's almost like a dart game. The administration's just throwing a dart. These AI data centers, I need everybody to understand that artificial intelligence data centers are drinking gallons, hundreds, millions of gallons, depending on the size of the AI data center. I would ask your listeners to right now go look up how many data centers are already built in your state alone and how much land they're taking. This is land that once it is ripped into, built on, poisoned, it is going to take us, and probably not in my lifetime, nor my grandchildren's lifetime, to heal from if we stopped now. That's how far progressed this is happening. And so, Virginia, I believe, holds the title. I could be wrong. But last I checked, I think it was Virginia that held the title for the most data centers. I understand that data has become a part of our lives. And I guess because of my age, I grew up before AOL, right? Um, and so there was, I don't need AI in my life, and I try to eliminate as much as possible. Um, our healthcare system has went to it, and I would just encourage everyone. First of all, um, grow your food, grow your own food, be sovereign, because that's the only way we're going to survive this at this point. Because no one's listening to my brown community, to my Black communities. No one is listening to people that have, since time started, A, took care of the land, and B, were forced to live basically that way.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I have a lot of concerns. The Amazon is dealing with a lot. Brazil's doing wonderful things. But it's happening everywhere, and it's happening so rapidly that even for us Indigenous people, it's becoming so big. And so we need more allies to stand with us, not take from us. Stand with us, because we're fighting for you too.
Absolutely. And I have two more questions for you, but I wanted to see, like I said, I am always just Googling and just, I mean, I mean, I learn about one thing and I'm just Googling away at it. And, I'm always looking up things. And this is going to sound a little wacky to viewers because it sort of falls into some people would think it falls into the conspiracy theory realm. Okay. I know about different things such as ley lines. Have you heard of ley lines, LEY lines?
No, have
Okay.
not.
So, what they are is basically ley lines are geographical points and intersections that crisscross all throughout the globe. And these are actually, how can I put it? They are spiritual sort of areas that are kind of very high in energy and frequency. They, like I said, they crisscross all across the world. Now, when multiple lines cross at a certain point, at one point, that is that is considered a very, very high energetic area or location. There's a website that kind of shows where these ley lines crisscross, where do they meet, where do they intersect, etc. I don't know, you probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle, right?
Yes.
The Bermuda Triangle, a place where these lines crisscross in one particular area. The Bermuda Triangle is actually part of this system. And then there's documentaries out there on YouTube that claim that there's a pyramid underwater there under the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle for years has been an area where, boats have disappeared, planes have disappeared, odd things have happened, stuff like that. Do I personally believe that this is actually something? Yeah, I do. I definitely believe that there are areas on Earth that are very highly energetic compared to others. My sister, she, even when she is traveling on a particular road, she says, this road, every time I'm in this particular area, I just feel something in my spirit. I can't, explain what it is, et cetera, et cetera. And that's happened to me too. And a lot of people, other people have talked about it too. But on this website that shows the ley lines, Pilot Mountain is actually within this ley line, within the global ley line. And they say that some Native American tribes and some ancient tribes actually know about these ley lines.
To me, you're speaking of the stars.
Mm, okay.
And so that connects more for me. So yeah, we're very in tune with the great sky, the great mystery, the stars. And, you know, um, I can honestly say that there is a lot of knowledge um, that our people once had. And you got to remember here in the Southeast, we were first to colonization. And so, a lot of things were oppressed and kept down. We weren't allowed to even hold ceremony until 1978. It was completely banned
Mm-hmm.
because the Puritans looked upon us and said, oh, that's devil worship. And it's not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We all pray, no matter what your faith or your skin color. We all pray to the same creator. We all pray to the same. It's just different ways of doing it. So
Right.
I'm not surprised that Jamoki is intercross with a ley line, as you said. Not surprised at all.
Yeah.
It's not a conspiracy to me. Everything is connected. Everything. Creator does nothing unintentionally.
Right.
And so, you know, Bermuda Triangle for our Tayana relatives, that's significant. A holy place, a sacred space. Jamoki, holy place, sacred space. And you can feel these energies when you get there.
Yeah.
You can feel them. And if your intention is good, you carry your spirit in a good way. I pray that everybody that goes to visit these places walks away with the blessings that they're seeking or the healing they're seeking. If
Yeah,
we
because
would
they're
open,
no, go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say, if we would just open ourselves to our higher power completely, and that includes the creation that is around us, and appreciate and, form a love that builds just such a connection that nothing can sever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, my next to last question is, have you all been recognized by the state as a tribe? Because I know that there were recently it's happened to the Lumbee tribe. And I know
Hmm.
that they've been fighting for that for years. Back when Governor Ralph Northam was governor of Virginia, because I was living up in Virginia and working up there at the time, he recognized, I want to say, 11 tribes at the time. Have you all been recognized by the state as a tribe? And if so, do you think that that could play a part in preventing the data center from being built on you all's lands?
I'm glad you asked that question. The Saura predate recognition. The Saura people um, were here well before that. And so, like I said before, some time ago, our ancestors dismantled, right, due to smallpox, disease, and ongoing wars. Um, and they joined other tribes. So today, when you look at the Catawba Nation, the Occaneechi Saponi, the PD Indians of South Carolina, the Tuscarora, you are looking on the faces of Saura. So are they recognized? Absolutely. Are they recognized in solely saying, this part of the tribe is Saura, this part is, Occaneechi or whatever? No, it's different. This joining of other tribes happened many, many moons ago. So Sarah is recognized historically, and that's it. But again, I really can't emphasize this enough. that Saura people are still very much here and alive and breathing. Um, what was the second part of that question?
Yeah. Do you believe? Because I feel like it seems like once a tribe or a certain faction of a tribe is recognized, anything involving them is protected by the state or federally protected, for that matter. And I'm just wondering if you all were recognized as a tribe by the state, would that hold off or at least prevent the data center from happening on you all's grounds, ancient grounds? You see what
I
I'm
will tell
saying?
you. Yes, I do. I see exactly what you're saying. And I'm going to reiterate what I started in December when learning of this data center is a call to all my Native people, a call out to all my allies. Come and stand against this thing with us, no matter where it's at, if it's in your territory or not. Come and stand. So that means I'm calling on the great nation of Catawba. I'm calling on the PD. I'm calling on the Occaneechi. I am calling on the Tuscarora, the Lumbee. Come stand and show yourselves and say this is not okay. If we continue to do this, not just for Project Delta, but if we can do this with every AI data center, Turtle Island wide, you will make a difference. And it's not just Indigenous voices that need to be heard. The allies are more than welcome to come and stand against this with us, no matter where it's at. So I would put a call out, just keep your eyes open for Stokes County. The lawsuit, when the court hearings are, as of right now, I don't know when those are, but please keep your ear to the ground for those and come. Wear your ribbon skirts, wear your ribbon shirts, show the veins of Saura still are here. Come, allies, come and stand with us and let that judge see that we are not okay with this, period. And that to me makes it's a good push, right? Push back. So yeah, that would be, and that's your recognition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the world gets a little hung up on that, but as far as like protecting this sacred site, the Catawba hold the biggest claim to it. Um, And so, I don't know what is going on. They're aware, um, but I don't know what their next move is if they have one. All I can say is that I am calling out for everyone to come stand. So, please, even you are welcome to come sit in this courtroom and stand against this because as Occaneechi descendant,
Mm-hmm.
you have ties to this land as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, that would be what I leave with today. Like, please just let your voice be heard. And if you're Indigenous, don't hide that. If you don't have a ribbon skirt or a ribbon shirt, you know what? Reach out. There are plenty of artists that sew and would be more than happy to take care of that for you. So you can represent because it's super important. We have been suppressed so long in this area. As I was saying before, so suppressed. And everyone has a Hollywood version of what an Indigenous Southeastern woodland person looks like. And we don't fit that narrative anymore. Some do and some don't. But please don't get in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come out here and support and stand and claim your birthright, um, and claim your right as a human being to have clean water and clean land.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Well, Kim, you all definitely have a supporter here and an advocate. I definitely do hope that, this doesn't get built for you all. This doesn't get built, because like I said, I am a descendant, and I would certainly, love for, the environment and the lands and the burial grounds to all be respected. And I hope that, something does work out for you all. Is there anything else that I didn't touch on that, you would like to make a statement on or talk about?
Just no data centers. We have enough. I don't care where you're located. We have enough. Protect the earth. Protect yourself. Be well.
Absolutely. Well, Kim, thank you so much today for just taking a few minutes out of your time to talk to me.